I was doing some research for something I'm working on, and it meant that I was looking in some old books, and these books were sort of from the 1940s and 50s. And one of the things that occurred to me was just how well dressed they used to be back in the day. Pictures of ordinary people going about their business in the market, for example, and they looked splendid. And then I thought I'll go online and just have a look because I wanted to see more pictures. And I realised, it's interesting, isn't it, how well people used to dress up and how smart they used to look and how much self-respect they had. And I've also got on my shelves books of costumes throughout the years. And by costumes, I mean clothes that people used to wear, the Cavaliers, for example, or the Georgians or the Tudors. They all used to, well, certainly the richer members of society used to wear some very ornate and beautifully made clothes. Of course, it gave them a certain status. And that was very fine. And then I stumbled across some Victorian photographs of well, street urchins, if you like, and people who haven't got a lot of money at all, the very poor. But even then, there was a certain sense of self-respect, even though they were dressed in rags and in hand-me-downs or third, fourth hand-down clothes. And they may not have had shoes and things like that, but there was a sense that the children and the parents were dressed to the best of their ability, and they may have had a Sunday best that they went out in. Well, yesterday was Sunday, and I did take a stroll down to the seafront. And with these images in my mind, I was looking at people, and I thought, gosh, what's happened to us? We seem to have lost that self-respect. Now, I don't want to come over as being some snobbish idiot. I know I dress in a specific way, and everybody can dress as they damn well please. Of course they can. But I did wonder whether we've sort of lost something. People in baggy T-shirts, in shapeless jeans. Talking of jeans, actually, it's amazing that people haven't picked up on the fact that these teenagers that walk around with jeans that seem to be slashed or frayed deliberately, so you buy them like that. It struck me that this is those globalists, those elite who want to control the world, just mocking us, aren't they? They've managed to get into fashion something which really is, well, it's mocking those poor afflicted people in poor countries who really can't afford anything to wear and actually have holes in their jeans and in their clothes. And yet we are buying them as if it's a fashion statement. And actually all we're doing is we're basically taking the mickey out of those people who genuinely can't afford and have jeans and clothes that have holes in them. And yet we're spending £80 or more on a pair of jeans that somebody somewhere has slashed deliberately, which strikes me as being extremely ironic and quite rude. But anyway, apart from that, people seem to be dressing in very shapeless clothes these days, clothes that don't seem to make them look their best. What's happened? People are perhaps not doing their hair. Now, I can talk, I don't have any, of course, but there was something about in the 40s and the 50s and maybe in the 60s, that people seem to have a sense of style. They had a sense of self-respect, as I say. But now when you look around, the sort of dowdy colours that people are wearing, on the whole, this isn't, a sweeping statement. These very clingy leggings that show off everything, and people are just not, they don't seem to have an awareness of how they look. Now, you may turn around and say, Richard, you're being extremely rude about people, and people, of course, can dress how they like. And I'm not blaming the people at all, by any means. I think the fashion houses and the cheap shops that you can buy these things from that are made by, let's face it, slave labour on the other side of the world, are responsible for what people are wearing today. And people are just going along with it because people are like water. They take the line of least resistance. Yes, it feels a bit comfortable and it's baggier and you can go about and everybody's dressed the same and nobody's making that much of an effort. I mean, let's face it, people don't make an effort these days to go to the cinema or the theatre anymore. People don't dress up for dinner. They don't change their clothes throughout the day according to where they're going. Now, you think back in the old days, people used to do that a lot. Why did they do that? What was the point? Was it that they were just rich and they just wanted to change? Was it just the fashion? Or was there a sense of feeling good about themselves, of changing their clothes? Now, you might say, and the argument might be, but all these sort of clothes that I'm talking about are highly expensive and certainly for the rich, and I don't want to be doing that. And you may well be right. But I go round, I mean, everything I'm wearing here is second-hand. Actually, apart from the shirt. The shirt did come cheaply. But mostly everything is second-hand or from a vintage shop, which is a sort of second-hand vintage clothing. And I don't go and buy stuff brand new all the time. I spend a lot of time rummaging through the charity shops, but I'm quite particular what I wear. And whilst what I think is, of course, of no consequence to anybody and who should give a monkeys, and I'm sure all the trolls out there will immediately be on there criticising everything I say, I do think that actually what we dress in says something about us. First impressions, of course, is always a good thing. Having a notion of presenting you to the world in your best form has surely got to be a good thing, because people are going to automatically judge you, no matter how people say it. And if one dresses slovenly or lazily or slapshodly, what does it say about you? What does it say about us who are here trying to fight against the system that is pushing us down? And if we present ourselves as just not very well turned out, how do you suppose the authorities and the system is going to treat us? They're going to treat us in the way that we present ourselves. If we don't present ourselves of having a higher authority, as being free, as being sovereign, our own king and queen, if we don't present ourselves as having some inner idea of being the best we can, then how is other people going to look at us? I think that, I mean, what I think is irrelevant, and I'm sharing just my thoughts, but I think it's important as best we can to shine to our best ability, to show people that we have our self-respect, that we have our notion of freedom and what our world would look like. Now, that may be dressing down and being shabby and wearing ill-fitting clothes from cheap and nasty industrialized churn-out shops where one look is all the same. But when I look back at these old photos of the old times, and I know I hark back to the old times a lot, there was something that we had. There was something that there was and then you might say that's wrong, and maybe it is, and maybe I'm talking absolute rubbish. But there was something about that sense of self-respect, about looking good, about trying to present yourself to the best ability that you can within the narrow field of income that you have. People did it in the past. And now, like the uglification of this land, like the buildings that are built mean with small windows and tiny gardens, it does look like people have been brainwashed, which is why I say I don't blame the people themselves. I don't blame the people. But we've been duped, I feel, into just following a drab, particularly uninspiring sense of dress as we walk about in scruffy t-shirts with brand names strewn all over them, and no shape and no definition and no individuality. We're all individual people, and clothes help to express who we are to the rest of the world. They say to the rest of the world, I'm not conforming to your nonsense. I'm not consenting to your authority. I am me, an individual, a free man, a living man and woman who chooses to dress exactly how I want to dress, rather than how you, the mainstream media, the world of fashion, or the world of big industry, want me to dress. I am unique, and I will remain so. That's what I think clothes say to the world. But of course, you may totally disagree.